Hello everyone, Luke here. Today I want to tell you about everyone's favorite little console, the Nintendo Wii. And how much did it sell again? Wow, that's a lot of Wiis. How did it get this way? How did the Wii become so popular? Like, my grandpa refers to Nintendo Switch as a Game Boy, and he still bought a Wii. That's how popular it was. So, why is it popular? Today, I'm going to find that out. But first, we have to go all the way back to 1985. Because that's when the Nintendo Entertainment System launched. After the video game crash in 1983, people thought video game trend was over, that it was just a phase. But Nintendo decided that they wanted to try video games with the NES. And with 60 million units sold, I think it's safe to say that worked out for them. Video games came back, but just why? Well, look at the 1977 Atari. With that system, you really need to use your imagination. With the NES, it was very clear what everything was supposed to be. Video games came back, but without Nintendo, it could have been a different story. The NES was powerful, but only being an 8-bit console, after a few years it looked bad. Nintendo saw this, and in 1990 they made the Super Nintendo, being able to display better backgrounds, just as powerful as the foregrounds. Just look at the background of Super Mario Bros. Compared to Super Mario World. Not to mention, we almost had 3D. I mean, just look at Super Mario Kart's graphics. It wasn't true 3D, but it was pretty close. However, back then, upgrading your video game console wasn't as common as it is today. So the Super Nintendo didn't sell as well as the NES. So in 1996, Nintendo made the Nintendo 64, a 3D console. This has to sell better than the NES. Why did the N64 not sell better than the NES, or at the very least, the Super Nintendo? Well, especially with this generation, Sony wanted to try video games with the PlayStation, which sold over 100 million units. Not to mention that Sony had a 2-year start on Nintendo, so by the time the Nintendo 64 came out, nobody cared, especially because Nintendo decided that they wanted to use cartridges instead of discs. So, next generation, Nintendo finally learned their lesson, and they were going to use discs. And that's not what we meant. The Nintendo GameCube sold way less than the N64 for a bunch of reasons, but one of the main reasons is because of Sony's PS2. It was just too powerful, and with the Xbox jumping in this generation too, there was not much Nintendo could do. So they gave up trying to make a powerful system and instead tried to focus on getting the casual players. And the Wii took off. Like, man, it was hard trying to find the Wii the first 3 years of his life. Like, it was so hard to find one. And it was because everybody wanted one. So, step one on why the Wii was so successful is that they weren't trying to make anything powerful. They made something cheap and easy to produce that was targeted towards the average, not video game player. I sometimes forget how similar the Wii and GameCube are power-wise. I guess Mario Galaxy is the true system difference. With Mario Galaxy's main feature, the anti-gravity, it probably wouldn't have worked on the Nintendo GameCube. The jump in power wasn't very big, but they made the Wii super cheap compared to the PS3 and Xbox 360. Step 2. Make it a replacement for the TV. The Wii's home menu looks just like a TV channel, so the Wiimote looks just like a TV remote. That just rhymes. The Wii was stupid easy to understand, not to mention the channels. You could check the weather, Google something, watch YouTube. It felt like a smartphone on the TV. The Wii was also backwards compatible with the GameCube. Reason number 3, motion controls. The game came packaged with Wii Sports, a classic. Swinging the tennis racket, it all felt so real. Wii Play showed everybody the pointer functions of Wiimote with short minigames. And later, Wii Motion Plus added in a gyroscope, even more precise. But there is also a downside. Some games like Donkey Kong Country Returns had too many motion controls. Simple things like hitting down required seizures worth of shaking. Even more hardcore titles like Mario Galaxy had you shaking the Wii Remote to spin. It works for the more casual players, but for the hardcore players, shaking every time you want to spin is annoying, especially when it's forced, like hitting a dice block in Mario Party 8. Number 4, the games. The Wii had some of the best games ever sold and some of the worst games ever sold. The Wii had some classics like Wii Sports, Mario Kart Wii, Donkey Kong Country Returns, New Super Mario Bros. Wii. The list goes on and on. But on the other side of things, we also had some of the lowest quality games. They're not bad, but you can tell they were made in 4 days by like 3 people. So yeah, that wraps things up. Overall, I like the Wii. It was my first true video game console as well as the PS3. This shows Nintendo is still capable of being able to make a best-selling console. They just need to think outside the box more. Now, when they do it again like the Wii U, then we have a problem.